Hey everybody, it's Cybers from Redguides. So I'm going to make a little video today. I've gotten a lot of questions about running MacRequest, the Redguides Launcher, and EverQuest through Crossover. So a lot of people have been asking me about that. How did you do it? How did you get it up and running? So I'm going to go over that today in this video. Maybe a little lengthy, so just stick with me. We'll go over all the little nuances and quirks and everything, but it does actually run an update. So we'll jump right into it. So just to let you know about my setup here, I am running the Sonoma beta for macOS. I've tested this both on Sonoma, Ventura. It does work on either one of those, so you won't have any complications when you switch over when Sonoma finally launches. I believe it's in September, so we're just a little over a month away. Um, and then also, Crossover 23 was just launched about a week and a half ago. I have tested this both on Crossover 22.11 and 23. Works on either one of them. So I'm going to do the install on 23. It will work the same way on 22. Uh, so we'll just jump right in here. So I'm going to assume that you already have Crossover downloaded and set up. So I'm just going to launch it here. See, currently I don't have an EverQuest bottle, so I'm going to set that up. I wanted to do everything from scratch for you guys so that you can understand how I do everything. Um, so you can use the default installer in Crossover for EverQuest, the CrossTie. All the installers inside of Crossover that come with it built in are called CrossTies, and these are community supported. Um, where somebody has put together a script basically that runs to install the software inside of Crossover. Um, so there is one for EverQuest, but it installs EverQuest into a Windows 7 bottle. I want to do a Windows 10 bottle, so I'm gonna actually make my bottle first, and then install everything into it. So just go up here at the top to bottle once you have Crossover launched, and click on New Bottle, and we're going to rename it to EverQuest. It'll take just a minute for it to create the bottle. And what a bottle is, if you're not used to wine or anything, basically think of it as an encapsulated place. It creates a fake C drive with some basic Windows registry and some other components that is a self encapsulated, basically Windows environment, but without the actual Windows software. So and you can see that it's created the bottle. So the next thing I want to do is, in order to get the Redguides Launcher to work, there's a couple of prerequisites that we have to install, and there is no cross tie for Redguides Launcher, so we have to install those prerequisites ourselves. So I'm going to go in here where it says install application into bottle. And what we're going to look for is .NET. So the Redguides launcher requires that you have .NET 4.7.2. I'm going to go ahead and install 4.8. It works just fine. That way, it's the most updated thing that's on it. All right. And you'll see here that it's got a little warning exclamation point beside it saying that it's not configured for this bottle type. Ignore that. It will work just fine. So make sure everything's set up, that it's going to download the installer, that it's set to install it into the correct bottle, which it is, and all the dependencies are going to come with it. So we'll just click install. So couple things about this installing .NET. It's going to install a couple of other versions first. It's going to install 2.0 and then 4.0 and then 4.8. So usually I don't have any problems with the 2.0 install. However, there are some complications that sometimes arise when you install 4.0 and 4.8. Uh, and we'll get there. I'll explain it when we get to that point. So this does take a few minutes here to install. Uh, and the nice thing about it is this is also a cross tie the Microsoft.NET Framework 4.8. So it installs 2.0 and 4.0 as a prerequisite to installing 4.8. So it's running those as part of its script to it'll install those first. And another little thing, another little hint that I will give you in order to do this is I would definitely suggest doing this over a hardwired network connection um, instead of trying to do this over wireless. I think there's some issues here where it's trying to download items instead and that sort of thing. So uh, I, I found that I've had more success when I do this via hardwired connection. And I know with Macs, you'd have to, well, I'd show you a picture of mine, but I'm actually using it right now. But there is a USB C to Ethernet adapter that I have. I think it's Belkin that makes it. That allows me to connect an Ethernet cable to the adapter, and then it plugs into the USB C port on my Mac. If you don't have one, don't worry about it. You can use the wireless. Like I said, I had better success when I use a hardwired connection. So now it's going to install 4.0. Uh, have to click accept and then install. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here when it gets to the right point. It'll load about 20, 15 to 20%. You'll see the blue bar kind of stops at a point right here. And it just sits there for a long time. You'll see like the little spinny circle. My gauge is usually as long as that is running, you're fine. But if that ever stops and freezes for like a minute or two, then what we'd have to do is close out of this and uh, install it. Delete the bottle because when this install hangs, there's not really a good way to clean uninstall it from the bottle. So instead of trying to run some form of uninstall that doesn't work properly, you actually just have to force quit this and then delete your bottle and create your bottle over again and start this process over again. And it like I said, can take a few minutes here for it to install. It's gone anywhere for me from a minute or two to, well, with the 4.0 it's not as bad, but when you get to 4.8 and it does this, I've literally waited hours before for it. But the you don't have to wait that long. If it takes that long, then just close it and restart and recreate your bottle. uh yeah, there's no sense in waiting hours for this to work. Hey, there we go. Yeah. And once you see that progress bar start moving, you know you're clearing over the hump, so to speak. And okay, we can click finish there. And now it's going to install 4.8. Right. Okay, so now it's going to pop up this warning. Just ignore it. It will work fine. Just click continue. Click accept. I've on the terms, install. And again, you'll kind of see that it'll stick um, once it gets to like 20% or so right there. Yeah, you can see it's kind of stuck, but our little circle's still spinning. So I think we're good. Like I said, that circle ever stops. Now it'll get really slow sometimes, but if it ever just stops and freezes and it's stuck like that for a minute or so, yeah, just cancel, close out, and delete your bottle and start over. Hopefully that won't happen this time. And this is the most tedious part of this install procedure, is getting this to go through. And we're still spinning over there, so we're still okay. And I would just take this time while you're waiting on this to install, like peruse the web, watch some YouTube videos, and whatever, or Six got a lot of good videos out there on how to configure stuff, hot buttons, how to move your team through dungeons, all sorts of good stuff on the Redguides site. Yep, and we may have froze up because a little circle quit moving. We'll give it just a minute here to see if it recovers, but it probably will not. I wish there was some sort of thing I could see to tell me what was going on, some kind of monitor or something, but yeah, I think we got stuck. So here's what we're gonna have to do. So we go up here, quit setup. That doesn't kill it, which it didn't. Then we go up to the little Apple icon, force quit, and force quit setup. Give it just a second. Go up here. I'm going to close out our force quit thing. Click cancel on the install. And then we're going to have to, you can't just reinstall it again because it won't work right. It won't install everything. It wants to do a repair install that doesn't work. So that's why you have to go in here, highlight the EQ bottle, and click delete. And then we're going to have to create the bottle again. Bottle, new bottle, and request. And once that's done, we're going to go back and try to install .NET again. All right, so the bottle's created. So we're going to go back over here to install. See, .NET's already highlighted. Go back and select 4.8 again and install. And see, the bad part is it's got to go back and install 2.0 again and 4.0. And trust me, this is the worst part of the whole thing. So once you get over this .NET install, then it's pretty much smooth sailing from there on out. Still working on installing 2.0. All right. So it installed 2.0. Now it's going to install 4.0 again. So I accept the terms. Install. And usually I don't have a problem with the 4.0 hanging up. It's the 4.8 when it installs that I have an issue with it. We're still going, still spinning. I wish this went a lot quicker. I don't know why this takes so long. There we go. Right. And now it will install 4.8. Again, hopefully this time it doesn't seize up. Again, just click continue, accept, and install. And hopefully this time it doesn't freeze up. Oh, still spinning, still loading. Looks like it may have froze up again. I'm just going to let it run for a minute and see if it goes through. And I also have tried looking up any issues or why this hangs, but I have not been successful in finding out or diagnosing why this hangs up. Yep, I think we froze up again. The little circle's not moving at all. And it's just stuck. And the only thing I know to do, um, yep. Now, if I leave this running, it will eventually probably work. Um, but like I said, I have waited overnight sometimes for this to finish installing, and then sometimes it never does. Sometimes it does, but once it's stuck like this, I hate to say it, but I'm just gonna have to quit and do it again because it should not hang up like that. Cancel. Okay, there we go. Delete my bottle again. And try this again. Right, and we're gonna go install.net again. Try this. Third time's the charm, right? That's why I install this first, is because I have to delete the bottle because I don't want to delete the bottle after I've already downloaded EverQuest and installed the Redguides Launcher and all that mess. Otherwise, you're just wasting time. Make sure you do this the very first thing after you create your bottle. No, I don't want to do that. Go, 4.0 is working. Yay! Right. All right, let's try this again. Continue. Reinstall. Hopefully this time it'll go through. Oh, there we go. It went right through that time. See what I mean? If it hangs up on you, yeah. There we go. Boom. All right. So that was the worst part of this whole process. Thanks for sticking with me. All right. So now that that's done, we've got .NET installed. We've got to install another dependency, and that is the Visual C runtime libraries. So scroll all the way down to the bottom to where it says Visual C++ 2015 to 2022 64-bit. And it will install both the 32 and 64-bit libraries. And this is required for the Redguides Launcher to work. So here you go. You can see it's installing the 32-bit first, then the 64-bit, and done. All right. And now we are ready to install EverQuest. So again, go up to install. Well, actually, I want to do one other thing first. So what we're going to do is go down to Wine Configuration, and we're going to add an override for a DLL. Now, what an override does, so the way crossover and Wine work is you can have what's called an override DLL library, which basically it's a different version of a DLL that will run instead of the native Windows DLL, and they call that Bulletin. So, or the native Windows DLL is just called native. So, but what we're going to do in this case is we want to actually disable a DLL file from being used, and it's a DXGI. The reason being is if that is left running, it will cause the launchpad to come up as a blank window, either a white box or a black box, and you won't see any icons or the graphics or anything. And we have to disable DXGI. Now that is used, I believe, I may be wrong about this, but my impression is that that is used for DirectX 11 and 12 stuff. Since EverQuest is DX9 based app, don't need it, and it just makes the launchpad work. Now later on this year, which I don't know if that's still on the roadmap, but according to the roadmap, they are going to upgrade EverQuest to DX11 at some point in the future, supposedly before the end of the year. I don't know if that's been pushed back or not. But anyway, at some point, EverQuest will be updated to DirectX 11, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there. All right, so the way you do this is click on, it's on the Applications tab, click on the Library tab, and then in this little search box here, type in DXGI, then click the little drop down thing, and you'll see that it's highlighted as the first item. Select it, click Add, and then we're going to click Edit and enable the last option that says Disable. Click OK. Click OK again. And now we're going to go over and select Install Application into Bottle again. Only this time we're going to do EverQuest. and do one little change here, because it's going to set it to default as if you've already downloaded the launcher file, which you can't do that if you want, but it's easier just to click Edit and then select Let Crossover download the launcher or the installer, and then it's going to install it into this bottle and install it with all the dependencies. So the reason I'm using this, I used to just install DirectX 9 myself, using the cross tab for DirectX 9, and then just install EverQuest as a custom application without running through the cross tie, because I thought that the cross tie had a bunch of extra stuff that wasn't needed. Well, now it is needed, because if you try to run EverQuest without these other dependencies installed, it will crash. So definitely use the cross tie to install it after you've got your bottle set up. So we're just going to click Install, and it'll install, I think it installs core fonts, the XML parser, and the DirectX 9 libraries. So right now it's installing core fonts. Right, and then it should install, I think this is the XML parser, and just leave the username and org blank. Just click Next. Okay. XML parser is installed. Now it's going to install DirectX 9. And we'll see that the EverQuest launcher also tries to install DirectX 9, but it will fail an error out. I'll show you that in just a second here. When we get to that part, all right, let's install DirectX 9, and now it's gonna do the EverQuest install. Just select all the default stuff. If you want to customize it and install it in a different directory, you're more than welcome to. Okay, so this is part of the EverQuest launcher now. It's trying to install DirectX 9, and I'll just usually just hit cancel here, but I just want to show you the error message that it pops up. Yeah, we don't want Bing installed. Yeah, there you go. It crashes. So it doesn't crash the installer, it just crashes the DirectX 9 portion of the EQ install. And you'll see the rest of it goes through. It opens up the launch pad. And then I'm going to log in one of my accounts here that I don't really care about. Right. Click accept on the EULA. And you can see it's going to download EQ now. Which can, depending on the speed of your connection, it can definitely take some time. Got a nice little gig connection here where I'm at, so even though I know it's not going to download full speed, but still got a great connection. And then again, this is another reason why you want to do a hardwired connection if you can, because it's going to make this download a lot faster than if you do it over Wi-Fi. We're cranking right along. All right, so it's done. Now I don't want to launch it yet, so I'm going to close the launch pad. And it's going to pop up this message saying it didn't work, but just say skip this step. It's fine. It did actually install it. And you'll see that EverQuest icon is there and it will pull up. But we're going to go ahead and install the Redguides Launcher. So if you haven't already done it, you can just go up here to Redguides, uh, download the launcher, which I've already downloaded it, but yeah, you can click the thing, it'll take you here, and you just click on the download link up here in the corner. I'll do it again just to see. Yeah, there it goes. Downloads, and you can see it downloaded it really fast. Just close out of Safari. And then the next thing is to click on install application into bottle again, but this time instead of using one of the cross ties for the pre-built installers, we're going to select install a unlisted application. And of course, we're going to have to provide it over here. You'll need to provide the installer, so we're going to click edit. And then we're going to scroll down to select our Redguides installer, which should be something like this: Redguides Resource Manager Installer MSI. Choose installer, then select install. That's going to run the setup wizard. Just go ahead and select all the default options, unless you want to change the directory it's installed to, which I would not recommend. We're going to go ahead and select launch installer. So this first time it runs, it's going to pop up this little message here saying it's got to restart. That's fine. Let it go ahead and do that. It's going to close out. The installer is going to finish, and you'll see you have your Redguides Launcher icon down here. We're actually going to launch it again one more time, because it's actually going to create another exe file that we're going to need to edit. So you can see that it didn't actually open up anything, which is fine. There it goes. Give it just a second. See if it actually opens the thing. Probably won't. Which is fine, because we're going to fix that in a second. Yeah. Alright, so go ahead and go down here. We're going to quit out of this. And all these other things that are hung up. Just quit all of these. Alright. So now we shouldn't have anything else running. So now that we run it twice, now we're going to go down to wine config. So the nice thing about the newer versions, both 22 and 23 and crossover, they allow you to do application level overrides. Before it, you only had the option to do bottle overrides, so you could only override. You could only create a list of override libraries, which is what this is, per bottle. But now you can actually do it per application, which is what we need in this case. Because in order to get the Redguides Launcher to work correctly, we have to add DirectX 9 and disable it for the Redguides Launcher to work correctly. So we don't want to do that for EQ. So we don't want to do it for the whole bottle, because then EQ will not work. It will not load any graphics or anything. So we don't want to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down here and select Add Application. Make sure you're on the application tab and click add application, and where we want to go is into program data and Redguides, and then the launcher or desktop utility folder. And what you'll see here, there's two exes. Now I'm not going to go into the reasons why it did this, but there is good reasons for it to create this other exe file. Yours will be some other weird name besides what mine is, but it'll be a bunch of letters and numbers, .exe, whatever. So what you're going to do is you're going to select that one and click open, and it will add it to your list of applications on your application tab. And now with that highlighted, we're going to click on libraries, and you see there's no override libraries listed. So now what we're going to do is we're going to type in D3, D9. And if I did that right, yep, you see it'll auto populate. Click add. click edit, and then select disable again. All right, and then select apply. Okay. Now we're going to launch our Redguides Launcher. And everything should run correctly now. Should run. Cross our fingers, right? There it is. All right. And before, what would happen with this? Well, I'll go ahead and hit the login button. And again, if you've never done this before, you'll have to log into your Redguides account, and then once you log in, you'll pop up this window saying exit out. Back to your app, and you see that we're logged into the application now. It's linked to our Redguides forum account. Then I can go in here. Now, before, what would happen is when I would try to run this is if I clicked on like any of these other options, say like very vanilla, instead of actually going to this screen, it would actually just freeze up. But I found out that for some reason you have to override the DirectX 9, the D3D9 library, DLL, and it works just fine. So, and since we did it at an application level, it's not going to disable that for EverQuest. So we'll show you that in a minute. There's a few things we need to do first. So very first thing I'm going to do is install MQ through the Redguides Launcher, and just popped up a little message saying that it couldn't find my MQ install, which is fine because I don't have MacRequest installed on here yet. So it's going to, you can see it's down here at the bottom, it's installing all the MacRequest goodness. And now you can see that the date changed to the time and stamp of when it was last installed. It's green now, so we're all good on that. So the other thing I'm going to go ahead and do while I run some other stuff is I'm going to go ahead and launch the mesh updater, because this takes a while to download all the nav meshes. So yeah, if you want to use MQ2 nav, you're going to have your meshes downloaded. You're going to have a nav mesh for each zone, and that's what this mesh updater does. So you can see there's 546 meshes for EQ right now. So it's going to update those, and while it's doing that, we're going to go ahead and download our plugins. So these will be any of the plugins that you have linked to your account that you have purchased. Will be in here. Well, Sig does a video on this where he shows you how to link your account to the plugins and stuff that you have, or macros or whatever. I think you just have to click follow or something like that on the forums on them, and then it'll bring that in to your Redguides launcher. So I'm just going to go ahead and install all my plugins first. And by the way, I highly recommend both the CWTN plugins and MQ2 Grind. CWTN and SICK have done a great job on these class plugins, and then of course Hightech did an awesome job on Grind. Great little plugins to use. And after our plugins are installed, then I'm going to do macros. And you can see here, like, I can try to do update all, but it won't work. Well, actually, it does work now. Okay, awesome. So before, when I would click that, I'd have to install everything manually, but now that appears to be fixed. All right, let's see. I guess I could have done that on my plugins. Let's see if it'll work for my Lua scripts. I think it's that Prayed Skill Construction said it takes a while to install. So that may be holding stuff up. Okay, maybe it won't do it for these. Let's see. Just click install on that just to see. No. Come on now. There we go. Finally it went through. Okay. See if that works for the rest of these. I think it is. Maybe. Oh, that's just an trace. Okay. The module. Yeah, for some reason it's not doing it for these, so I'm just gonna install them one by one instead of using the update all option. And yes, I know I have a lot of Lewis scripts. Don't use these all for everything or load them all at the same time. I use them for different situations. So, but anyway, and then the other last little bit here, we're going to install my SEQ. It's a nice little radar screen. Does some tracking for mob respawns, tracking named, um, that sort of thing. It's kind of like the old school thing. That's what we had back in the day was show EQ before we had MQ or MacroQuest. Um, Way back in the days, I remember using this when on an old Linux box, all that good fun stuff when you had to have a uh, just a network hub, not a switch. You had to have a network hub so that all the network traffic went to each computer. Yeah, fun day back then, and had a Linux box connected to the hub along with my computer that had a request on it. So yeah, we'll just in, and then it's going to pop up this message saying I don't have an install set up for show EQ, which is fine. Just let it do the default stuff. Then it's also going to download maps for this last little part down here, so that we'll have the map overlays on the show EQ window. All right, now that that is all installed, there's one other thing that we need to do, and I'll go ahead and show you because if I try to run launch MQ right now, it's going to pop up a message with some registry entry errors due to compatibility layer issues. I'm going to show you how to fix that. So close out of that, and then there are some registry keys that we need to edit here. Here's those registry entries we're going to edit. So we can do that here. Leave everything running in the background because it's not going to hurt anything. And then just go over here to run command, and then just like in Windows, crossover has built in for the bottles the regedit command. And we're going to make these registry entry issues. Hopefully, you can read that. Basically, what it is it's HKey current user software, Microsoft, Windows NT current version, and then we're going to add these last two key entries on the end. So one of them is an HKey current user, the other is HKey local machine, and then after that, they're both going to be under software, Microsoft, Windows NT current version. And then we're going to have to add the last two directories as key entries, which is apt compat flags and then layers. So just go in here and do that while we're waiting on the maps and stuff to finish downloading. So go into HKey current user, software, Microsoft, Windows NT, current version, and then we're going to create a new key. I'm just going to copy this over here. Didn't get the A. Now I'll have to go over here and click on rename, delete out what's in there, paste it in. Get the S because I think nope, I missed the S. So it should read apt compat flags. And then I'm going to say new key and just type in layers. So it'll have app compat flags and then layers underneath of it. And then we're going to do the same thing under HKey local machine. So go under HKey local machine, software, Microsoft, way down at the bottom, Windows NT, current version, add new key, and delete what's in there. Control V to paste in, and yeah, I got to put my S on there. So again, we're going to add in app compat flags. And then on app compat flags, then we do new key, and then just type in layers. Oops, not sure I spelled that right. Layers, enter. All right, and just close out of Regedit. Looks like our meshes are finished updating, so I can go ahead and close the mesh updater. And then let's just check and make sure that we got those registry entries. So now if I go back here to, and close this little window. Now if I go in here and say launch MQ, I shouldn't get that error message, which I did. Awesome. So those are in there correctly. And I can also test that too by going over here, clicking on my MQ icon, click advanced, and go down to check app compatibility. And it's going to say, hey, look, we found no issues. Yay. All right. So another little thing about this is on the PC side, if you have some kind of error pop up with MQ about app compatibility layer issues or something like that, what you'll need to do is go do the same thing, go into Regedit, check those flags because they will be there on your Windows machine. And in that layers section, in that layers key, if there's anything in there, just delete it out because it's not required by MQ. So yeah, you want to keep that cleaned out or else you can have some weird issues with MQ. All right. Then that's done. There is one other thing we need to edit, but we don't need the Redguides Launcher open because we're done with it. So there is one other tiny little thing. So with MQ, a Mac request running on a Mac, there is one tiny little hitch, and it's going to bug some people, and it may be a deal breaker for some people because DanNet does not work. It will freeze up your EQ session, your EverQuest session, and it will not work. It doesn't crash Mac request, but it does freeze up EverQuest, completely locks it up. So we actually need to go in there and disable DanNet. So you can go up here, click on the INI file, and then scroll down to where the plugins are listed. And we're going to change DanNet from a 1 to a 0. Let's see, right here. So it's a 1. I'm changing it to 0. What that does is 1, it means the plugin's enabled. 0 means the plugin's not going to load. So it will not load DanNet now. Just have to file and save. And then close out of the INI file. And now we're good to go. Everything's set up. And one other thing I want to mention is profiles. So due to the architecture differences, because Mac Apple Silicon uses a simple instruction set, or reduced instruction set, sorry, it uses RISC processing, whereas a Windows computer uses complex instruction sets or CISC processing. There are architectural differences to the way that it processes stuff. And one of the things, and also the fact that it's a different operating system, where, Windows is its own thing and Mac OS is based off Berkeley Unix. It's a fork of Berkeley Unix. So there's differences in the way that is encrypted. So your profiles will not transfer from a PC over to a Mac. Even if you know the password to it and try to transfer those profiles over, it will not work. It'll error out saying I can't read this file. So what you have to do in that case for your profiles is you're going to have to enter them in one at a time. I know it's a pain, and if you have hundreds of accounts, I know it's a pain, but you're not going to load 100 accounts on Mac anyway. So, but yeah, you're going to have to enter all those profiles in manually. I know it's a pain. Uh, but since we've got that taken care of, I don't have a profile set up on here, so I'm just going to go through. If you did, you could just go over here to here and go over to profiles and then launch and then enable MQ auto login. Since I don't have a profile or anything, I'm not going to worry about enabling auto login, but it does work. So I'm just going to launch EQ through Launchpad. Don't recommend doing this. I'm just doing it because it's faster for me since I don't have any profiles set up. Reason being is we had a situation the other day where where Daybreak updated EverQuest. They did a live push while the servers were still up and changed the launch exe while people were online. And if you patched through the launchpad, then MacroQuest wouldn't work anymore until, of course, the devs got it fixed, which they did. So yeah, it caused some issues. So yep, we're just going to click play. And it should launch up okay. And I've already got MacroQuest loaded. As you can see, it's up here. Go in and select the server that I want to play on. Play EverQuest. Yay! Now, one other thing I'm going to do, I'll show you in a minute once it loads the character select, is I'm going to, the buttons and the mouse won't line up. That's because it's not in full screen mode. So here we go. You can see that all my MQ stuff has loaded perfectly fine. So I'm going to downsize my nav tools here. So what I need to do is, because like you can see my mouse is not following the buttons, I'm gonna increase, just click the little green arrow thing up here and that'll make it full size, and then your mouse will line up with your buttons. So we're gonna go ahead and enter world. So I just want to show you that everything loads up. There we go. Boom. All right. Get some of these windows relocated, but you can see that my MQ has loaded. Got nav tools over here if I need it. All my plugin windows are here if I need to activate plugins. My MQ window is up here, so I can see what's in my MQ chat. I could go over here to the EQ thing, EQ button. You see I've got the little MacroQuest option under my menu settings. Just move that. So, yep, you see I've got MacroQuest up here. I can go into my MacroQuest settings, change stuff. Now, one thing I do recommend is the frame limiter. If you're running stuff in the background, it's already defaulted to 1 and enabled, so I usually enable that. That saves on some processing power, especially if you're running multiple tunes. Definitely recommend that you enable that so that it'll run at 1 frame per second for if it's in the background. Definitely saves on system resources, especially running on a Mac. And you see here also I've got my Lua task manager so I can manage my Luas that are running. Currently I don't have anything running. But if I did, I could manage them from here as well. So all that stuff is working great. It's fine. Like I said, the only thing that doesn't run is Dayonet. Um, so what you would have to do, and it does work, is I can show you real quick once you just camp out. Um, show you just one other thing here. Oh, well, we got a crash when we're logging out. I'm not going to worry about that. But anyway, so the one thing that you'll have to do is launch EQBCS or EQBC. Um, EQBC, sorry. I can launch that and it does pop up and work, and then I can connect my tunes to that. Just read up on that plugin. There should be a link on the forums to MQ to EQBC. It'll tell you how you can set up the auto connect for your tunes, so every time they log in, they connect to the EQBC server, and you can send commands from the tune that you're driving to your other tunes in your group. I haven't. One other thing is I haven't tested how many tunes I can load on here. I've tested 6 and it works fine. No issues. Um, don't know if you could run 2 or 3 groups. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can test it and see. But it may crash out on you. But anyway, that's how you can get EverQuest and Redguides Launcher working with crossover. So just want to give a shout out to all our devs over at MacroQuest. Nightly, chat with this name, Brainiac, Danerick. You guys are awesome getting this stuff uploaded for us all the time. Sick being a great community manager. That guy is awesome. Redbot, props to you, man. Over all these years, you've kept that site running. I know I've been on it for over 20 plus years. So, yeah, great stuff. If you guys got any questions, post them in the video underneath or on the forums. And I'll also put up a guide. And when I link this post over, I'll put in some notes and stuff. So yeah, if you guys got any questions, give me a shout. I'll try to answer them as best as I can. But video pretty much went over everything that I could think of that you might have a hiccup or an issue with in getting this installed. So with that, Cyber is signing off. Have a great and wonderful day. Enjoy EQ. We'll see you in game.